So I got feedback from many of you indicating you were having difficulties with developing your single case experimental graphs. So what I decided to do was go ahead and show you how to make a graph each week based on the type of design that you're learning about. So this week I'm going to show you how to develop a reversal graph. And you'll see here I put the dates here. This is purely for myself as a researcher to know which date these things occurred. I'm not going to include the dates in the graph. Some of you did that, and my suggestion is that you indicate sessions. Sometimes you might have more than one session on a day, and really we just want to know that each of these data points are in a time series. This one happened first, and then this one, and then this one, and so on and so forth. Okay? And again, this is a reversal graph, and we'll talk more about that in the next video, but I have baseline, phase, intervention, baseline, and intervention. Now normally when I set up this, I would have no information here. I want to delete all of those, if it'll let me. And you're just going to start out with your data like this. But one of the things that you want to do is when you develop your graph, go ahead and go in and add in data as if you have conducted the research study. That's going to help you to make your graph accurate so that then all you have to do when you're conducting your research is to go in and type in the data point and then assess the data because the graph has been created. But if you don't have those data there, then it's difficult to ensure that you've created your graph accurately. Okay? So I'm going to put all of those back here and indicate where each thing is. Now the only thing that I'm going to highlight is this row C with the data, okay, to create my chart. And so you would go here and click on charts, click on scatter, and select straight marked scatter. Okay, and here we have a graph. It's not exactly as I wanted. I want to get rid of the series. I'm actually going to pick this one right here that has no lines, and I'm going to delete the series, and we can create the labels and all of that later. So first I want to work with my data series, and what I need to do is I need to make this look like it would look in a formal research design study, as if it were published in a peer-reviewed article. You'll see that there's a level of differing quality to the graphs that you see in journals, but I'm going to show you sort of the industry standard best way to create a graph and make it look right. First I'm going to click here, and I've highlighted this entire data series. I'm going to right click and format my data series. What I want to do right now is format the data points and also format the line. Okay, so we have the line here, and it should be black. Okay. Also, the weight of the line should be much smaller than it is. It should really be 1 point. So make your line 1 point and black. Then go into your marker style. And I typically have a square or a circle. Those are the two shapes that you generally use if you have one or two data points or data lines showing on a graph. And then the size should be about 5. Okay, so I've already got 5 in here from having previously developed a graph. And then I would like my marker line to be black. I would also like my marker fill to be black. So now if you look here, I have my data series, but as you know, we shouldn't have lines connecting between different phases. And we see here we have the baseline phase, the intervention phase, and so on and so forth. So I've collected data all the way up to my first day of intervention. I want to click here, and you see that all of the data points are highlighted. I want to right click here, and actually I don't want to right click here. I want to keep clicking until just the dot that's just following, just after the line that I want to delete. Okay, so I click on that dot, I right click, select format data point, and select line, no line, and you see already that line has disappeared. So I'll click OK. Now I'm going to go to the next phase change, and the first data point in this phase change is right here. I double click it until just the dot is showing. This is the line that I want to do, and so it's the datum that's just after the line, just after, the line that I want to delete. I'll click on Format Data Point. It's already online, so I just want to change it and make it say no line. Okay? And then here we are. This is the first data point in the next phase, so I'm going to right click on it and make it say no line. Okay, so now we have our information. We have our data series correctly shown with gaps between the different phases. I want to draw in my phase change lines, but before that I'm going to look at my axes and see I have, let's see, this is my entire study from 2 to 21, and that is 20 data points. Okay, so down here on the x-axis I'm going to, I just clicked it a bunch of times and it said Format Axis. You can also click directly on the number, right click, and select Format Axis. I want to show you that way. Now all of, you might work on a Mac or you might work on a PC. I work from a Mac, so this is what the Mac Excel looks like. But I will say that prior to working on a Mac, I worked on Microsoft Word, or I had a PC and used Excel on a PC. And while it was different, basically the only difference is where the buttons are. Most of the procedures are exactly the same. So if you become fluent in one, while it will be a little bit finicky and frustrating initially, you will be able to become fluent in the other. And so if you're a PC user, this still has applicability to you. So going back to changing the axis, because I want it to end where my last data point ends, I find a number and I right click on that number and I select Format Axis. Okay. What I'd like to do here is change the scale. Okay, so the minimum is 0, the maximum should be 20. Like that. Okay. And the major units of every 2, I think, is enough. If I said the major unit for 1, you'd see all of the numbers here, and that might make it look a little bit too busy. Okay, but we also do need the tick lines, so I see they're not there. I want to go in and I selected the wrong thing, so I'm going to click on this number. I'm going to right click, Format Axis, Ticks. So there are no major tick marks. Generally, we create the tick marks to be shown outside the graph, like this. Okay. And so I have this axis formatted. The next thing I want to do is the students in this study, and we'll talk about what type of study this is in the next video, they only have 10 opportunities. So 12 isn't a realistic number. So if I want to show that they were able to get all of the opportunities completed, then I want it to say to just go up to the topmost. So if it were, if you're using percentage, it should go all the way up to 100. And if you're using a consistent number of opportunities so that you can just show those number of opportunities, then the top opportunity, the highest opportunity or most that they can do is what your axis number should be. So I do want ticks. I'd like them to be outside, and I would like to change my scale to a maximum of 10. Okay. So let's do chart layout. I want to have a axis titles. Okay. I would like a title below the axis. I'm going to make that title say sessions. And the reason why I haven't gone in and put these lines in is everything that I do within this is going to change a bit as I enter things in. So these data series are going to move around a little bit, and so until I've got all of my labels set up, I don't want to do anything with those lines, because I'm going to have to draw those in and they'll move around a bit. So I've got my sessions here. Now I need my vertical axis title. I'd like it to be rotated like this, and this is number of independent transitions. Okay? Now, it may be that you have an older version of Word that does not have this, and so what you would do here is you could you could right click on this, copy it, put it into Word, and then draw text boxes to fix this. I'm just showing you the way that the current one has it done. So what I'm going to do now then is right click on this, copy it. I am going to go in and open a Word document and bring that in here. And let's make that about 200. And now I'm going to hit enter a few times before adding the chart, just so I have room above to put in labels, and I'm going to paste this. Okay, and we have this. Now I want to add in my phase change lines, the labels, and I could also type in, if I was using the format of the APA guidelines, I could type in the title of this figure. Okay, so it would be figure X, number of independent transitions. So let's do it, figure X, number of independent transitions. And following activity schedule. The noise you hear is me grabbing my APA manual, because I always have to go back to it to remember how to do a figure. And actually with figures it should go on the bottom and not on the top. Tables you label at the top and figures you label at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to put that down here. And I see that I need to italicize figure X, so I'm going to do that by highlighting it and coming over here and hitting italicize. So now we have the figure name here. What we do need is the phase change lines and phase labels. Line, straight line, holding the shift key down and drawing a straight line. Okay? Now, this line needs to be scooted over. I'm just going to move it by holding it down and clicking on it. So now I've got it centered fairly nicely between the two lines, and what I want to do is it needs to be black. This line, the weight should be 1, the same as the lines here. And then also we typically use dashed arrows when we create phase change lines. So here we have the dashed. Alright, so now I have this line. The great thing with the reversal line is all the lines can be the same length, so I'm going to do Command C, click, Command V. Those are shortcuts for you. Basically what I did was copy and paste. Another way that I can do that is right click and click on copy, and then right click again, generally somewhere that doesn't have anything going on, to highlight and click on paste, and there's that line again, and I can bring it over here. Okay, so now I have created my graph. One thing I see here is these axes labels should be black. So I'm going to format the axes, text, line, black, ticks. So give me an option for that. But I think all I needed to do was do line and everything turned black. So here, we're going to click on this one and do the same thing, format axis line. Instead of automatic, I would like it to be black. Okay, so now we have the graph. The only thing that's left are for me to label each phase. And here's how I do that. I go to the text box, and we don't want that to happen. I'm going to do this and see if that brings it back up. Yeah, so I just reshaped it. Sometimes you do something and it's a little freaky. I reshaped the box. Let's see if it will let me paste it inside the plot area. Paste. So here's my label, which is exactly what I want. Good. Base line. Centered. Okay, so if you didn't see what I did, I just went and clicked in here to make sure that when I did my text box, the text box went inside the plot instead of above it. That was the problem with what was kicking it back to a different place on the page. So now I'm just going to copy. I'm using Control C, Control V. Now I have two baselines. Not sure why you can't see it, but we'll do intervention. Okay. And I want it to be centered. So I'm going to make sure my lines align right with these phase change lines. Okay. This one. You can see it's a bit of a tedious situation we've got going on here, but eventually it gets done. So now I have another text box. Control V. I'm going to grab it, put it over here. And again, not sure why it's not keeping the words. That's okay. This one is a little bit smaller, so I'm going to move it here. Move this up so we're fairly aligned, and then last I'm going to copy the intervention and bring it over here. Okay, so I've drawn these in and you can see there's some overlap here. So one thing that I'm going to do is I can grab the plot area and just pull it down a bit. It can be a little tedious grabbing it and getting it exactly where I want it to be, so this will take just a second. I'll move the sessions down a bit here. That helps. So now my lines have moved. I need to realign the lines, the phase change lines. So you can see it is a fiddly task even for someone who's pretty fluent in creating a graph. Okay, now I'm going to align these to the top. It'll just be sure that they're all at the same spot since they're all the same length. Moving these over so again, if I lined them up, they would be right in the center. And here we have intervention, and it needs to be scooted over just a tiny bit, and then I want it to be centered. Okay, and there we have the graph. And that's how you would create that. If you have any questions about this, feel free to email me and ask. And next week you'll see a graph on how to conduct or create a multiple baseline graph.